Može. Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and viewers, dear businessmen, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Vojvodina and to this third regional business forum. At the very beginning of the forum, the president of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Vojvodina, Mr. Boško Vučurević, will address the audience. Mr. Vučurević, please.
Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished President of the Assembly of European Regions, respected President of Assembly of Autonomous Province of Vojvodina, dear Vice President of Assembly of Autonomous Province of Vojvodina, respected representatives, European institutions, chambers of commerce, development agencies, dear viewers, dear businessmen. It is a great honor and pleasure for me that on behalf of Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Vojvodina and my own behalf, I can greet you at the opening of our third regional business forum. I would also like to thank the institutions that together with the Chamber of Commerce of Industry of Vojvodina participate in the organization of the forum. The Assembly of Autonomous Province of Vojvodina, the Provincial Government of Vojvodina, the Development Agency of Vojvodina, the European Affairs Fund on the Autonomous Province of Vojvodina, and the Enterprise Europe Network. I would also like to thank all our business friends across the Europe who have also made a significant contribution to animating their business communities. After the success of our two regional business forums, we persisted in the idea of making this forum traditional. The results of our months of work is today's third business forum in Novi Sad, which brought together over 200, I repeat, 210 participants from 28 countries, from 3 continents, and registered over 200, for me is most important, over 200 B2B meetings. With the participation of numerous guests, representatives of embassies, provincial government, and local governments, and regions across Europe, as well as many other relevant institutions. This year's forum was organized in online environment due to the current epidemiological situation around the world. And we have implemented all epidemiological recommendations and measures to keep the forum within the safe framework. I'm glad that despite the unfavorable conditions, we have a large number of requests from registered participants for bilateral talks. We have decided to focus on several sectors that will present the basis of direct B2B meetings. It's agricultural and food industry, construction industry, IT, and as well as creative industries. Given that representatives of companies and institutions participate in the talks, this is an excellent opportunity to network new partners and refresh all contacts, as well as present investment and economic potentials of all regions participating in the forum, but also open interesting economic topics. The unity of all institutions and the provincial government in Vojvodina is of great importance to us, as well as with the unified Serbian chamber system and the Serbian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which we create a real economic environment for further performances of Vojvodina's and Serbian economy in all regional and other markets. At the same time, we are ready to welcome the initiatives of all our partners from European and other regions in order to react in the right way in this very dynamic time for the economic environment. Today, the entire world economy is facing a great challenge in the new conditions, and all companies from micro to the largest corporations need additional support in creating the right economic environment. And here is a network of chambers of commerce across Europe and the world most precise. I'm especially pleased that there are online, of course, presidents and representatives of many chambers of commerce from Europe among us. And that only shows how much importance is attached to business networking and finding partners at such events, which represent the right way to find new markets and new business partners. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear businessmen, I wish you all a pleasant and successful forum, as well as bilateral talks, with the hope that we will all overcome the current epidemiological situation and that we will be able to see each other again next year here in Novi Sad and at the next hour forum. And I will conclude: strong region, most developed economy. Thank you for your attention.
Vučurević. It is my honor to announce Mr. Ištván Pastor, the President of the Assembly of the Autonomous Province of Vojvodina. Mr. Pastor, please.
Dobar dan, želim dame i gospodo. Čini mi veliko zadovoljstvo što je Autonomna pokrajina Vojvodina i Skupština europskih regija u saradnji sa Privrednom komorom Vojvodine, Razvojnom agencijom Vojvodine, Evropskom mrežom preduzetništva po treći put domaćin ove veoma značajne manifestacije.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the third regional business forum organized together with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Vojvodina, with the Development Agency of Vojvodina and the European Network of Entrepreneurships.
Želim i ovom prilikom da se zahvalim predsjedniku AER-a, gospodinu Magnusu Benstonu, što je bio partner u izvojevanju ove mogućnosti za nas.
I would also like to thank the President of the European Association of European Regions for enabling us to be partners in this forum.
Koliko je ovo dobra ideja pokazuju i brojke što se tiče broja učesnika i što se tiče zemalja i što se tiče direktnih učesnika ove konferencije.
The indicator of how good this idea is are the numbers of the participants of businesses and countries in this forum.
Organizacija ovakvih manifestacija uvek iziskuje ogromne napore, ali mislim da je posebne napore trebalo uložiti sada kada su okolnosti u osnovi promenjene u odnosu na ono na što smo se navikli. Želim da se zahvalim svima onima koji su taj napor učinili i u organizacionom i u pojedinačnom smislu.
Great efforts have to be implemented for the organization of such events, especially in these circumstances when the efforts should be also individual and the organizational in order to have such an important regional forum.
Posebno želim da izrazim naše zadovoljstvo što je sa nama i komesar za susedsku politiku i proširenje Europske komisije, odnosno Europske unije.
I would also like to express my pleasure to welcome the European Commissioner for Neighborhood and Association of the European Commission.
I ono što je apsolutna novost, to je da su sa nama i naši prijatelji iz Narodne Republike Kine, iz provincije Fujian, koje posebno pozdravljam.
What is also news is that we have the pleasure of welcoming our friends from the Fujian province of China, so welcome.
Mislim da je tema današnje konferencije veoma aktuelna, od opšteg značaja.
I think that the topic of today's conference is very current and beneficial to everybody.
Iza nas su meseci, pred nama su meseci u kojima imamo u suštini dva osnovna zadatka, to je da sačuvamo zdravlje ljudi i da obezbedimo normalnost u funkcionisanju društva, pre svega normalnost u privrednim aktivnostima.
We have two very important tasks ahead of us, business tasks to preserve the health of people and also to preserve the normalcy of business activities.
Ako smem samo veoma kratko da predstavim rezultate sa kojima se mi sa pravom, mislim, možemo dičiti što se tiče Republike Srbije, autonomne pokrajine Vojvodine, to je sljedeće.
If I may very shortly present the results that we have the right to be proud of, the results of the Republic of Serbia and the province of Vojvodina.
Mislim da su pokazatelji Republike Srbije u poređenju sa okruženjem mnogo bolji.
I think that the indicators of the Republic of Serbia in comparison to the surroundings are much better.
I kod nas je praktično došlo do pada privrednih aktivnosti što se tiče ukupnog bruto društvenog proizvoda, ali daleko ispod onog nivoa koji je evropska pojava. Taj pad je svega 1,8% na godišnjem nivou.
And we have seen the fall of the business activities in terms of the GDP, but it is much lower than in the surrounding areas and the other countries, and it is around 1.8%.
Ono što je posebno značajno za istaći, budući da se nalazimo u Privrednoj komori Vojvodine, odnosno ovdje u Vojvodini, da je učinak vojvođanske privrede u okviru ili kao dela ukupnog učinka privrede Republike Srbije daleko bolji, izvanredan je, smeo bi da kažem.
What is also important to say is that the contribution of Vojvodina economy in the total economy of Serbia is much better, if I may say so.
Za 8 meseci ove godine industrijska proizvodnja beleži rast u Vojvodini na nivou od 4,5%.
In the last 8 months, the Vojvodina economy has seen the growth of the production in the processing production of 4.5%.
A u prerađivačkoj industriji je taj rast od 4,8%.
In the processing industry, it's 4.8%, and in the industrial production, it's 4.5%.
Svi ti rezultati su rezultati ukupnog napora koji su činjeni na državnom nivou, na pokrajinskom nivou i ubeđen sam na individualnom, lokalnom, preduzetničkom, pojedinačnom nivou, jer jedino je tako moguće imati ovakve rezultate.
All these results are all the results of the total effort at the provincial level, at the state level of the Republic of Serbia, and also of the individual entrepreneurship level of every businessman.
Ako je neko ikada uopšte imao sumnje u to zašto je važno imati stabilne političke odnose u jednoj zemlji, onda mislim da ova prilika to upravo pokazuje, jer nismo bili prinuđeni na to da uzaludno trošimo energiju na nekakve rasprave koje više unazađuju nego što pomažu.
If anybody had any doubt that the stable political relations in a country is not important, we have just proven that it is so, because we did not lose time and effort on the arguments between parties.
I mislim da su ovi rezultati posljedice jednog višegodišnjeg predanog sistematičnog rada u poboljšanju privrednog ambijenta i u privlačenju investicija, pre svega na državnom i na svim ostalim nivoima, i taj napor je praktično sada urodio prvim plodovima.
And we have also seen that the consequences of such good work in the long term, good state of the economy and the attracting investments, and we are now seeing the good results of that.
Ovo samo po sebi ne bi bilo dovoljno, bilo je sve ovo potpomognuto sa 2 paketa mera koje su bile sprovedene od strane republičke vlade, odnosno ukupne strukture institucija koje su nadležne za ubrzanje privrednih aktivnosti.
This alone would not be enough. It was supported by two economic measures, packages of economic measures from the institutions that were implementing all the support to the economy and the industry.
Kroz ta dva paketa mera je pokrenut ukupan finansijski kapacitet ove države u vrednosti od blizu 6 milijardi eura.
Through these two packages of measures, the total financial system of the country was supported by 6 billion euros.
I iz te pomoći ili podrške su pomoć dobile firme koje zapošljavaju više od 1 milion zaposlenih u Republici Srbiji.
The industries, the enterprises that employ more than 1 million employees in the Republic of Serbia received support from these packages.
Moram da kažem da smo ove napore činili, ove korake činili oslanjajući se samo na sopstvene snage.
I have to say that we did all this effort only with our own strength.
Očekivali smo, ako ništa drugo, bar jednu značajniju moralnu podršku od strane Evropske unije koja je nažalost izostala.
We expected more moral support, significant moral support from the European Union, but unfortunately we lacked it.
Ja smem da dozvolim sebi luksus pa da kažem, mislim da je taj odnos Evropske unije prema Srbiji bio apsolutno nefer.
I may allow the luxury to say that this treatment from the European Union was not fair.
Ako ništa drugo, moglo se otvoriti jedno ili dva poglavlja da se jednostavno pruži neka vrsta moralne podrške u onom naporu koji činimo. Nažalost je to izostalo.
If nothing else, at least one or two chapters could have been opened as part of the moral support to all the efforts that we have made, but unfortunately we have not seen that.
Očekujemo da će se to ponoviti, odnosno da će se to promeniti u predstojećim mesecima.
We expect this to change in the following months.
Ono što je potpuno sigurno da nas očekuje isto tako veoma težak period pred nama.
What we also foresee is a very difficult period ahead of us.
U suštini smo oslonjeni na sopstvene snage i na snage svojih prijatelja sa kojima smo međusobno upućeni na saradnju i traženje kontakata i kroz ovakve forme kao što je ova današnja.
We have to rely on our own strength and the strength and relations of our contacts, of our friends, in the form of such cooperation as this one is.
Imamo visoka očekivanja u odnosu na današnju konferenciju. Nadamo se da će se ta očekivanja i opravdati. Želim vam uspešnu konferenciju i uspešnu bilateralnu saradnju, odnosno bilateralni razgovor sa vašim partnerima.
And I hope that we will see we have high expectations from this conference and from this bilateral talks that will follow. And I wish you a very successful conference and a successful bilateral talks and cooperation. Thank you.
Mi smo sa Magnusom dogovorili pre par godina da ćemo raditi 3 uzastopne konferencije.
With Magnus, we agreed that we would do 3 conferences in a row.
Treća bi trebala da bude dogodine. Nadam se da će ona već biti u normalnim okolnostima, u realnom boravku u istom prostoru.
The third one will be next year, and I hope that it will be in the usual regular circumstances with the real attendance of participants.
Hvala vam lepo na vašoj pažnji.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pastor. I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Magnus Berntsson, the President of the Assembly of European Regions. Mr. Berntsson, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Magnus Berntsson, the President of the Assembly of European Regions, but I'm also a regional politician in my home region of Västra Götaland in Sweden, where Gothenburg is the major city, where I'm the Minister for Environment and the Vice President of the Regional Parliament. So firstly, I would like to thank our partners and hosts for welcoming us today and hosting this annual forum. Thank you to the Autonomous Province of Vojvodina, Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Vojvodina, and Vojvodina Development Agency and the Enterprise Europe Network. A big thank you as well to the President of the Autonomous Province, Mr. Istvan Pastor, and the AER Vice President, Mr. Damir Sobenica, and to Mrs. Sanja Shiflish for all the continued support and preparation for this event. I'm pleased that I could be here today to welcome you to this third edition of the Regional Business Forum, although virtual. This year has been shaped by the COVID-19 pandemic. And although these are unprecedented times, it is events like this that show how and why interregional cooperation and collaboration is so important. The goal of this forum is to exchange on support for SMEs, promote business and commerce intensive and incentive the possibilities of and to collaborate and share best practice between regions. We are pleased to see that there have been almost 200 registrations from 25 different countries that will be taking part in the B2B meetings following this very interesting plenary session. This event, which is in collaboration with the Assembly of European Regions, is a perfect example of our founding principle laid out 35 years ago. Founded in 1985, AER has been a forum for interregional cooperation, promoting regionalism and the ever-changing world that we live in, and continuing to be the voice of Europe, of regions in Europe. AER is still the largest independent network of regions in wider Europe, representing regions from both within and outside the EU. Indeed, as a network with 1/3 of our membership outside the EU, many free accession countries, such as those from Western Balkans. AER will continue to be a loud and strong partner for all member regions. We will push for a continued support from the EU, not only EU regions and countries, but to all of them. We are here to promote initiatives in the Balkans, join forces on a regional level, for example, of Serbia and its neighboring countries. Vojvodina has provided many good examples of transnational and intercultural cooperation. As we can see from the COVID-19 pandemic, it has been the regional and local authorities who has been on the front line battling and mitigating the socio-economic effects, and will continue to do so in the aftermath. As the level closest to our citizens, we believe it is necessary that the regional and local level must be closely involved with the decision made at international, European, or national level. I strongly believe that the business stakeholders should take an active part in the discussion on how we can best tackle our common European and global challenges, offering perspectives to our youth, in these difficult times, promoting Serbia and Western Balkans on the European stage and fully grasping the opportunities of EU funds. This is only possible through a cooperation between politicians and business leaders led by the public interest. Moreover, it is important that we learn and exchange with another. ER, as the Forum for Interregional Cooperation, has been facilitating events and lately webinars exchanging on topics such as, to name a few, education, digitalization, the Green Deal, the Sustainable Development Goals defined by the United Nations, and the EU's cohesion policy. During this plenary session, we will hear from the European Commission, the European Parliament, and regional representatives. What is being done during this difficult and turbulent time, and how we can best support our citizens and the local community. I would like to finally take the opportunity to stress the importance of solidarity in these difficult times. We must work together, collaborate, cooperate in order to ensure the sustainable, prosperous future of Europe. Thank you very much.
Bernstein. It is my pleasure to announce the address of Mr. Oliver Varhey, European Commissioner for the Neighborhood and Enlargement. Mr. Varhey will address the audience via video message.
I am pleased to be addressing you today at an unprecedented moment in our lives when we need to collectively join forces to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and ensure our economies recover and become more resilient. As you know, the pandemic did not deter us from working hard with and for the Western Balkans. Indeed, the region remains our priority, as its future lies firmly in the European Union. Through the crisis, we continue to stand by the region. We have put our efforts first into providing significant emergency assistance to the region, and second, to help the economy deal with the immediate impact. Specifically, for businesses, our COVID response included €455 million lifeline to ensure survival in the short term and recovery in the mid-term of businesses in the private sector. But a lot more needs to be done. That is why the Commission is working with the government of the region to make use of all possible means to boost the economic development and convergence of the region with the EU. A month ago, the Commission has adopted an economic and investment plan. With the plan, we aim to mobilize up to €9 billion in grant funding. The investment package is structured around 10 flagship initiatives to do away with the main bottlenecks before growth and jobs: transport, energy, environment, digital, the private sector, and youth. In addition, the investment capacity of the region will be boosted by the mobilization of a new Western Balkans guarantee facility with the ambition to potentially raise investments of up to €20 billion. In total, this means almost a third of the current GDP of the whole region. Investments leveraged by this support could potentially increase, by conservative calculations, the region's real GDP by at least 3.6%. And importantly, we are increasing grants versus loans, a key component in a moment when the fiscal space is tight. A lot of this funding will go to infrastructure projects connecting the region by road and rail, and to build broadband internet infrastructure. This will help your businesses to trade more easily within the region and with the EU. There will also be a substantial increase of EU guarantees through the Western Balkans Guarantee Facility that help your businesses directly. The guarantees will be provided via local banks and will increase the availability of affordable and sustainable finance. This will reduce the cost of financing, help your businesses grow, support startups, and help innovative companies to scale up. With the Economic and Investment Plan, we also aim to foster regional cooperation and regional economic integration. A common market of 18 million people functioning on the basis of EU rules could be a game changer for the Western Balkans. The region could and should become a real investment hub, including for investors who want to shorten their supply chains to the EU market. The current fragmentation of your market and the prospect of facing the burden of dealing with several customs regimes are a deterrent for many investors. The World Bank calculated that a full market integration of the region could lead to almost 7% of additional growth. Unleashing this potential should be a priority. This is why I am looking forward to leaders of the Western Balkans agreeing an ambitious action plan to develop a common regional market at the Sofia summit. This common regional market would bring great advantages to your businesses. If successfully implemented, goods will be compliant with EU standards. This would mean that the business in Vojvodina or anywhere else in the Western Balkans could trade its industrial and consumer goods within the whole Western Balkan region without any obstacles. Boosting investment and economic growth in the Western Balkans will only be possible if governments firmly commit to and implement structural economic reforms, strengthen the rule of law, and improve public administrations. These reforms are essential for environment favorable to entrepreneurship, job creation, and sustainable investment. And the European Commission will continue to accompany these efforts. To conclude, while we deal with an unprecedented crisis caused by the pandemic, we also need to use the opportunities emerging from it. We need to grab it together to create growth and jobs in the region for the region.
Thank you, Mr. Varhey. And now, it is my great honor to announce the address of Mr. Sam Fabrizi, Ambassador and Head of Delegation of the European Union to the Republic of Serbia. Mr. Fabrizi, please.
Dobar dan svima. A good morning to all of you from Belgrade. It is certainly a privilege to address this regional forum at the presence of so many authority from Vojvodina, from different institutions and players in the region. And certainly I will make some complementary messages to what already the Commissioner Varelli has said. I will make five quick points. The first one is that the COVID-19 is not deterring the EU to continue its work in the Western Balkans with the Western Balkans. The 2020 has been a very busy year. You might remember in January a new methodology has been approved. A political decision to open negotiation with North Macedonia and Albania has been approved. And a number of measures have been taken in May at the Zagreb summit to help the Western Balkans to face the medical and the economic first emergency for the COVID-19. And only last month, as the Commissioner said, a new economic and investment plan has been adopted. So the first point is that despite the notwithstanding the COVID-19, which is disrupting social, economic, and human life all over Europe, our work on European perspective is moving. The second point is that the EU solidarity and the EU work in favor of Western Balkans has spared no effort. Commission already gave you some number of on the economic and medical response in terms of help to the health system in the Western Balkans, but also important element of economic support, especially for the small and medium enterprises who are the first one to suffer from a disruption in the market. Since this is a regional meeting, it's important to stress again how Europe look at the Western Balkans from a European and a regional perspective. The European Investment Plan, the Commissioner gave you already the number, is an unprecedented economic and financial effort to mobilize 9 billion on grants, which means donation, and 20 million in investment. So if we combine the two, we arrive in a remarkable number, which is around 29-30 billion, which is 30% of the GDP of the Western Balkans. In addition to this, the idea of the investment plan is to touch the bottleneck where we can untap the great potential in the region. The region Western Balkan is made of 18 million people, an annual GDP of 100 billion euro, but there's a possibility to do more. That's why this economic investment plan is touching the area of digital. It's important that the region is connected, has a broadband connection, has roaming fees going down. It's important the region is connected also by infrastructure. This is why the plan has a number of big infrastructural plan. It's important the region move on the energy, so moving from fossil to renewable. It's important the region move into environmental better landscape with a number of measures to transition from fossil to other renewable resources, and of course investment in human capital, especially the young one, and in the private sectors. The other element is something that will happen in a couple of hours, is the Sofia summit. Also, the Commission made reference to is an important stepping stone for players in the region to be more integrated within the region and more connected to the European path. Today will be launched the common regional market, which will be based on the establishment of what we call the fourth freedom. So the free circulation in the region of goods, services, investment, and people. And this is an important element together with the green agenda that will be adopted today. So stay tuned, because at 12 o'clock, the leaders from the region, from a number of countries in the EU will make this important decision. And the last point since I represent the EU in Serbia, just a few elements on the Serbia situation. Thanks to the Serbian government response, has been mentioned before, nearly 6 billion euro package. And thanks to the EU response, certainly Serbia is cushioning much better than others the difficulties, economic difficulties from the COVID. So we saw the last forecast, the autumn forecast released by the European Commission last week, put Serbia on minus 1.3% of GDP growth. We put Serbia certainly among the best performer certainly in the region, but also in Europe, if you have to confront with the nearly aggregated -7% in the Eurozone. And so we hope that this economic measure plus the investment coming from the region, from European Union, will allow Serbia and all the region to have a strong rebound in 2021 and in the years to come. So there is a need to continue to work all together as Serbia and the Western Balkan region is the beneficiary of the European Union economy. EU is for the whole country, so the Western Balkan is the first trade partner, the first investor, the first donors. So certainly we have to continue to strengthen also this position. And the last point, the continuation of the accession goes through a continuation of reform. The Commissioner has mentioned the importance of reform on the rule of law, which make certainly also the economic environment much more able to grasp all the possibilities coming from European trade and European investors. There's also the question of the new value chain, nearshoring, reshoring. Certainly the Western Balkan region can benefit from likely change in the value chain, and being closer to the EU will give certainly a comparative advantage to the Western Balkan. So I believe from all my comments, to recap, 2020 remain an important year for the accession. The European Union has devised in different form an unprecedented amount of solidarity and economic support to the Western Balkan region. There are important initiatives on the economic investment plan in the common regional market and the green agenda. There's a need to continue to the structural reform to advance the accession, and also to possibility to progress also in terms of new chapters and new reform for Serbia in the foreseeable future, but is also linked to the speed of reform, and certainly a call on the business environment to continue to drive for the regional integration and for the accession. The business voice is particularly important, particularly strong, especially in this period. So with this comment, I thank you all of you for giving these opportunities to you, and in best regard for all of you, and a good continuation of your session today. Hvala puno.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fabrizi. Our next speaker is Mr. Nicholas Burge, representative from Directorate General of Trade from European Commission. Mr. Burge, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our hosts for organizing this event and also being given the chance to address you this morning. As other speakers have said already, we're living in very challenging times. And last week, you may have seen that the European Commission issued its autumn economic forecast, and this makes very sober reading. We now forecast a 7.8% contraction in the economy of the euro area in 2020, with a rebound of 4.2% in 2021, falling to 3% growth in 2022, with similar figures for the EU economy as a whole. In fact, all of the economic indicators look poor. For example, unemployment is expected to rise up to more like 10% in 2021 and only fall in 2022. And of course, all these forecasts have a very high level of uncertainty due to the continuing risks of the current pandemic. Now, in these circumstances, the European Commission is undertaking a comprehensive review of EU trade policy. We launched a public consultation, and this remains open until the 15th of November. And as a result of this consultation, we will be preparing a new Commission communication in the first quarter of 2021 to devise a more modern and up-to-date trade policy. The COVID-19 crisis is not the only driver of this review. There has been a weakening over the last 4 years or so of the multilateral rules-based order. There is, of course, the digital revolution, the fight against climate change. All these things are leading us to rethink our trade and investment policy. But COVID-19 has highlighted vulnerabilities in our supply chains that we need to analyze and address. The shortage of certain essential goods during the current crisis has raised the question of the dependence of EU supply chains on external resources. And this has led many people to call for moves to look at reshoring, maybe stockpiling or diversification as possible remedies. We need to break the issue down and be clear about the problem that we want to address. We need to identify vulnerabilities before designing a calibrated response. For example, in the case of the shortage of personal protective equipment in Europe, we made the wrong assessment, which then led to the wrong policy response. Some EU countries introduced export restrictions, where in fact the right thing would have been to look at increasing production. It was a mistake we should avoid repeating. We did at least manage to exempt the Western Balkans from this measure with effect from the end of April, and the regulation has expired completely at the end of May. But we need to learn from those lessons. And one thing is becoming very clear, as other speakers have already identified, the case for closer economic integration between the EU and its neighbours is stronger than ever, especially with the Western Balkans. Increased trade and investment, more diverse trade and investment, will be key elements to support economic recovery. With a population of nearly 80 million, as previous speakers have said, the region is an important market for the EU and a transit area for European and international goods with a skilled workforce for companies ready to invest. The Western Balkans have therefore a key role to play in the global value chains that supply the EU, and this role has potential to be further reinforced. If we look back at the last 10 years, we can see that trade between the EU and the Western Balkans has increased by around 130%, reaching 55 billion euros in 2019. And in some countries, such as Serbia, trade has grown even faster by 156% in the last 10 years. Now, the stabilization and association agreements have contributed to that growth by giving a European perspective and providing a framework for increased trade and investment. For each of the Western Balkan countries and for the region as a whole, the EU is the leading trade partner, accounting for almost 70% of total trade. I also note that there are very few trade barriers or trade irritants between the EU and the Western Balkans, which is certainly not the case when we look at other parts of the world. We also see that the business and investment climate in the region has improved over the past decade. I'm certainly not going to deny that much more needs to be done to further reduce red tape, to root out corrupt practices, and to introduce more predictability in legislation, but we have seen progress. So what can we do to concretely enhance our bilateral trade and investment in the near future? Well, in the medium term, the most effective means for bringing about further integration of the Western Balkans into the EU market, and of course improving the business investment climate, is EU accession. 4 countries in the region are now on that road. Montenegro and Serbia are very close, but must continue to make the last efforts to complete the process. Implementation of the EU acquis in the Western Balkans will encourage investment from EU companies by improving the business climate. And making progress on adopting EU standards, upgrading the so-called quality infrastructure in the Western Balkans would facilitate closer integration with the EU single market, with all the benefits for business that comes from that. But this does require efforts from each national government in the region to reform and change. It requires the necessary political will. For example, in Serbia's case, we have been disappointed to see that very little progress has been made on its WTO accession over the past few years. Joining the WTO would in itself encourage trade and economic growth. But I should remind everyone that EU accession can only happen after Serbia completes its WTO accession. So this really needs to be addressed seriously in the near future. You've already heard from Commissioner Fahey about the more immediate support that is going to be provided to the Western Balkans to help with post-COVID-19 recovery. The new economic and investment plan announced last month aims to spur long-term recovery, leading to sustained economic growth, and to assist the implementation of the structural reforms that are still required to move forward on the EU path and to bring the Western Balkans closer to the EU single market. And finally, I should mention one very practical measure that the European Commission is taking in the very short term, which is to extend the current autonomous trade measures for the Western Balkans. These give preferential market access to exporters of certain agricultural products to the EU. And although the current regulation expires at the end of this December, the Commission has proposed to extend it for another 5 years to the end of 2025. And the final legislative procedures are now being completed by the European Parliament and Council to ensure that this amended regulation will come into force by the 1st of January, which means there'll be no legislative gap and that Western Balkan exporters can continue to benefit from preferential tariffs going into next year. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope for all our sakes that 2021 is going to be a better year than 2020. The road to economic recovery from the pandemic will be difficult for us all, but I hope that we can travel along that road together as partners, using the positive experience of the last decade. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Much, Mr. Burge. I now invite Mr. Lucas Mendel, a member of European Parliament, to address the audience. Mr. Mendel, please.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning from Vienna. I hope you're all in good health in these crucial times, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to share my views today, since especially the Western Balkans are of utmost importance for the development of Europe for the future. I would even say it's essential after losing Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the United Kingdom. The European Union should do as much as it can not to lose the Western Balkans as well. I know that the Western Balkan countries, 6 of them are not yet EU member states, but I know there are influences from other parts of the world which don't necessarily share our common values in terms of democracy, rule of law, human dignity, individual freedom. But I also know from many different occasions and due to many years of experience, the European identity the people of the Western Balkan countries have and conduct in all their life, the vast majority of the people there. And these are good reasons to strengthen the ties. The Assembly of European Regions is of exceptional importance for that process due to many different reasons. One of the reasons is that we are active on the regional and the local level. And we all know that the famous quote that all politics would be local is true. And when it comes to questions of economic development, but also to questions of education and other things that are important in the Western Balkan countries, things are effective on the local level and on the regional level, or they are not really effective. And that's one of the reasons why our Assembly of European Regions make a huge difference. And another reason is that we are actually pioneers as Assembly of European Regions, since many municipalities and regions in the Western Balkans are already involved in the Assembly of European Regions, since our activity as AER does not stop at the borders of the European Union, but is also relevant and involving local communities, local officials and regional officials outside the EU. That's why we can do a lot to connect. And connection seems important to me. First of all, within the Western Balkan countries and between the 6 of them, and secondly, of course, also with the EU. What I mean in terms of economy, especially in the, let's say, at the moment rising economic crisis due to the pandemic, is that the CEFTA, the regional economic agreement between the Western Balkan 6, should be strengthened as much as possible. It means economic prosperity, but it also means more contact and stronger ties between the people, the citizens of the different 6 Western Balkan countries, and that's something we should contribute to. We should also not forget about the fact that the EU has been and remains the largest contributor in terms of finance to the Western Balkan countries. Even this fall in October, Commissioner Vaheli has announced a 9 billion package of economic support for the Western Balkan countries. The huge and important question is how this money will be used. And in my view, it should be used especially in the field of education, especially in the field of digital education, especially in the field of professional training, because this creates job opportunities for young people. And due to the economic tradition and the economic history of the Western Balkan countries, the era of digitalization means a lot of opportunities, because what is needed there is an interested young population which is well educated and willing to work, and this is what is in place in the Western Balkans. So they can get even more engaged in software architecture, software engineering, and fields like this, and this is something we should contribute to. And the political elites, the government officials, my colleagues, the parliamentarians in the Western Balkan countries are really let's say, requested to go on with reforms in the field of rule of law, in the field of fighting corruption, and in the field of strengthening their own population via education. Because education on the one side and rule of law on the other side are the essential preconditions for economic strength, economic development, for wealth, and for future prosperity. Why is that? Because businesses, enterprises tell me, yeah, they are willing to invest in the Western Balkans, especially due to the really interested young people there, but rule of law has to be in place. A company, an enterprise has to be sure that rule of law is in place in order to invest major amounts of money. That's why rule of law is so important. That's why fighting corruption is so important. And to keep up this young population and to strengthen this young population, education and professional training seems so important to me. So it's not only the question what amounts of money will be spent by European Union, by private investors and others, but also how the money is used. And my recommendation would be to use it in the fields I have already mentioned. And my recommendation would be to strengthen the local level, to strengthen the regional level, to connect with them, and also for all branches of government on federal levels to listen to the local level and to the regional level in order to better connect and to conclude, to overcome historic conflicts, also via economic cooperation. That's why, in my view, CEFTA, the regional economic cooperation agreement, should be strengthened, and Albania, North Macedonia are, let's say, on the door, at the door of European Union for accession negotiations. We try to speed up with that, but what we need is reforms on the side of the Western Balkan countries in order to be influential in terms of European values in all the European territory, which does not only mean in the European Union member states, but also in those who are not yet member states, especially in the Western Balkans. And I guess each and everybody should know one can count from both sides, from the Western Balkan countries as well from the European Union, one can count on the Assembly of European Regions to be a large contributor to a positive and constructive process towards the future. Thank you for listening, and I'm carefully listening to what the others have to say in order to strengthen our ties. Stay healthy, all of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendel. And now, representing region Murcia in Spain, I ask Mr. Juan José Martínez Lozano to take the floor. Mr. Martínez Lozano, please.
Dear authorities, dear colleagues, good morning, all of you. Thank you for the invitation to participate in the event in order to share the experience of the region of Murcia in dealing with the economic effects of the pandemic and the strategy put in place to mitigate these effects in the regional business sector. There are many challenges facing regions at a time when the whole of Europe is being hit hard by the pandemic, and regional and local authorities are in the first line of defense. The government of the region of Murcia has pioneered its response to a health crisis that is leading to an unprecedented economic and social crisis, the extent and intensity of which we do not yet know. Even since February 2020, efforts have been coordinated and all possible resources deployed to address them. Together with the containment of the health crisis, all the efforts of this region were focused on maintaining and recovering economic activity and job creation as soon as possible, as well as protecting particularly disadvantaged groups, because we can only say that we have overcome this crisis if we all do it together. Our regional development agency, the Instituto de Fomento, launched in March a contingency plan to minimize the impact of coronavirus on regional companies. A coronavirus monitoring committee composed of the main sectoral business association of the region of Murcia was established, and during all this month, a close contact has been maintained with the businesses sector to provide information, different economic analysis, and the exchange of concepts and ideas. Similarly, unaware of the lack of liquidity of SMEs, support lines were immediately put in place for companies, with the co-financing of ERDF funds, such as the COVID line, to support companies that have suffered the effects of the pandemic, or support lines for ICT, cybersecurity, e-commerce, innovation, management and teleworking, or digital transformation of industry. All these support schemes have been implemented between April and September. With a view to lasting impact on the regional economy, we have launched Reactiva 2020, Economic and Social Reactivation Strategy, the most ambitious economic reactivation plan our region has known in its almost 40 years of history. It is a plan with the huge challenge of overcoming the tremendous global impact of the COVID pandemic on our economy and our society. This strategy is the result of the coordinated work of the regional government together with all the regional stakeholders, and it is a key instrument for balancing the way out of the crisis and stimulating a new economy that values the knowledge and potential of the region of Murcia, generating synergies between all public and private sectors. The strategy will inject more than €1 billion into the regional economy by the end of the next year, through the launch of nearly 300 measures oriented to reducing the tax burden, protecting the businesses, creating jobs, and revitalizing the economy. We will devote more than €44 million specifically to stimulate our productive fabric and to help our self-employed and SMEs, who are the ones who create wealth and jobs, and who we must support with all the resources we can in this very delicate situation. Some of these support lines have already been mobilized, as I pointed out at the beginning. The Regional Development Agency has made available to companies around €14.5 million through the so-called COVID line. We have already earmarked €5 million in loans on advantageous terms for our self-employed, SMEs, and companies in general, so that they can have liquidity to face the negative effects of the pandemic on their businesses. And I would like to point out two key aspects of the implementation of the reactive plan: the exemplary efficiency with which the various sidelines have been launched, and the particular effort to speed up the assessment and approval of the application so that the money reaches the companies as soon as possible. Because every minute counts for the self-employed and entrepreneurs who demand help, but also celerity and efficiency in our management. Another key action of the Regional Recovery Plan is the Recovery Plan of Industrial Activity. In the region of Murcia, we have a strong industrial sector that has proved to be one of our greatest strengths to deal with the COVID crisis. It accounts for approximately 20% of the GDP of the region of Murcia, 2.4% more than the national average. The agri-food sector, the energy industry, metallurgy, the manufacture of metal products, the chemical and pharmaceutical industry, or the textile, leather, and footwear sector stand out for their strength. A sector whose future lies in technological innovation, digitalization, sustainability, and energy efficiency through the use of low pollution and renewable energies such as photovoltaic energy or hydrogen. Hence the importance of the Industrial Activity Recovery Plan, with a total allocation of 8.2 million euros, which has also been agreed with the main industrial regional stakeholders. The trade sector is also particularly affected by the crisis alongside that of the hotel catering industry, to which it is closely linked. It is seriously suffering the impact of the COVID-19 with closures and destruction of thousands of jobs. That is why we have also focused our efforts on helping this sector with different support programs. These programs target areas such as technological innovation, microcredit support for retail trade, or to municipality services and infrastructure. These are the main actions undertaken by the government of the region of Murcia to address the economic effects of the pandemic and mitigate these effects on the regional business sector. But the crisis transcends the response capacity of a municipality, a region, or a particular country, and it is essential to combine and coordinate efforts and resources in order to curb its terrible consequences in all sectors. In this context, the European Union is the key player that must lead the way out of this crisis, providing the member states with the necessary resources and helping to guide us towards a more efficient, more sustainable, more social and resilient economic model. In this regard, the regional government is working intensively with all socioeconomic regional actors within the framework of which we have called the Next Calm Strategy on the definition of green and digital transformation projects in the region of Murcia, to be included in the Spanish National Recovery Plan, to be submitted to the EU Recovery and Resilience Facility. Dear friends, the coronavirus is not only a threat, but a reality that is still with us, and we must learn to live together until a vaccine becomes widely available. Meanwhile, we must invest every effort to regain the economy, considering that balance sheets are of no use when the human life cost is unbearable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lozano. Our next speaker is representative of region Abruzzo in Italy, Ms. Alessandra Santini, who will address us via video message.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting us to this regional business forum. My name is Alessandra Santini from Region Abruzzo, that is located in the center of Italy on the Adriatic seaside. Regions and cities, as here in Abruzzo, have been on the front line since the beginning of 2020 to face the emergencies caused by the COVID-19, and we had to focus efforts to protect the health and the welfare of our citizens. The emergencies is now running again, and region is boosting and accelerating the initiatives already planned in the past month. According to the principle of the bottom-up level and participatory approach, the regional government is confronting with local actors and stakeholders, municipalities, local company, of course, to collect the priority projects and initiatives that can be immediately implemented. according to the real needs of the territory. And of course, we also identify the relevant financing line. Abruzzo, to face the emergency caused by COVID-19, issued a number of ordinances and laws to manage the lockdown and restart phase. In addition, an integration of national laws. In particular, the region approved two laws, 9 and 10 of January 2020, related to extraordinary and urgent measures for the economy and employment related to the epidemiological emergencies from COVID-19, and urgent provision in favor of the tourism, retail, trade, and other services sector. On October the 27th, the region has allocated 27 million euros in addition to the already paid out and available funds to implement action and measures foreseen by these two laws. These laws issues, in addition to the national measures, priority measures to ensure immediate availability to businesses in serious shortage of liquidity and to preserve the continuity of economic activities, contribution, not refundable funds, indemnities. In example, 6 million euros to small medium enterprises to buy equipment and machinery, 3 million to support for company holding maritime state concession and to ensure safety and prevention, more than 1 million euros addressed to the municipality and companies in the red areas. The region also grants to the owners of tourist, commercial, artisanal, industrial businesses and also self-employed holders a contribution to support the cost for the property lease contract for whose activities remain suspended in March-April 2020. Furthermore, specific intervention have been set up to the safeguard of employment levels. The region grants also a not refundable contribution to companies in all economic sector. This contribution is provided on condition that the amount of revenues of fees relating to April 2020 has decreased by at least a third compared to the of that of April 2019, and is determined by a percentage of the last April 2019 revenues. The region now is also working on the renegotiation of some European funds to have more available sum. This laws provides an economic contribution to the companies holding also maritime state concession for intervention related for guarantee measures, safety and interpersonal distances. This has been very important for our region where there are many activities that are running in the summer times as we are in the seaside. This was a short overview to the measure focused on small, medium enterprise. Of course, there are other measures related to public municipalities, families, and so on. In example, 181 beds have been added to the hospital in Pescara to face the emergencies, and 40 are in intensive care, in example. The region has also some priorities for the futures with the aim of a stable recovery in our sector. And to make an example regarding the sustainable development, the key words are digitization and accessibility to all of a stable and fast internet network, also to promote the smart working, new technology, especially in transport with a focus on hydrogen. We are running working table as regard the application of hydrogen technology on rail, ports and airports, energy efficiency on building, smart electric grids and public smart lighting system, sustainable and slow mobility and cycling path. So this was a quick overview of the action running and future challenge with the hope to overcome this critical moment together and to meet in person. So from Abruzzo, thank you and stay strong and safe.
Well, we thank Ms. Santini. And our last speaker comes from the People's Republic of China. It is my great pleasure to announce Mr. Wang Tianming, the Director General of Fujian Provincial Foreign Affairs Office. Mr. Tianming, please take the floor.
Thank you. Dear friends from Vojvodina province, Serbia, as well as friends from other parts of Europe, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Fujian province, People's Republic of China. First of all, I should like to thank our host for organizing the event, and also my colleagues from the Provincial Department of Commerce and Fujian Provincial Foreign Affairs Office, as well as representatives of Fujian entrepreneurs who are also joining the event. This year's forum is convened at a special time. COVID-19 has caught us all by surprise and dealt a heavy blow to the world economy. Since its outbreak, China and Europe have supported each other and cooperated in the fight against the pandemic. Both sides have maintained close contacts and remain important trade and investment partners. In a recent China-Germany-EU Leaders Summit, President Xi Jinping and EU leaders announced the signing of the China-EU Agreement on Geographical Indications, pledged their commitment to speeding up the negotiations on the China-EU bilateral trade investment treaty, and decided to forge China-EU green and digital partnerships. We believe that under the strategic guidance of our leaders, we will continuously consolidate the comprehensive strategic partnership and boost substantial development of bilateral ties to a new level. On the 4th of November, the third China International Import Expo was successfully opened in Shanghai as scheduled. It demonstrates China's sincere desire to share its market opportunities with the world and contribute to global economic recovery. As President Xi stressed in his keynote speech, bearing in mind the common interests that bind us all, countries need to work together to make economic globalization more open, inclusive, and balanced for the benefits of all. As a coastal province in China, Fujian will continue to open wider to the rest of the world. In 2019, Fujian's GDP increased by 7.6% to 4.2 trillion RMB yuan. Its per capita GDP exceeded $15,000, ranking number 5 in China. Despite the negative impact of the pandemic, Fujian's economy remains resilient. In the first 3 quarters this year, its GDP grew by 2.4% over the same period of last year. From January to August this year, Fujian's foreign trade registered 870 billion RMB yuan, up by 0.6% over the same period of last year. Fujian's engagement with the world spans all continents. So far, it has established sister relationships with 113 provinces and cities in 43 countries, among which 33 linkages are with European counterparts, like Serbia, Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, Spain, etc. Such relationship plays a key role in promoting mutual understanding, friendship, and exchanges between Fujian and the rest of the world, which were exemplified by the mutual assistance in our fight against COVID-19. I recall with very fond memories of my visit in 2018 to Novi Sad and signed a letter of intent to establish sister province relationship with President Milovic. Since then, Fujian and Vojvodina have maintained close contact to promote cooperation on trade, investment, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. We participated in each other's exhibitions, fairs, forums, and seminars. In June this year, our 2 provinces, through an online ceremony, formally established sister province ties. As the province continues to open wider, Fujian stands ready to make more friends and work with them for friendship and common development. ladies and gentlemen, looking forward, Fujian will stay committed to openness, cooperation, and unity for win-win results. Here, I would like to make a few proposals concerning future exchanges and cooperation. First, strengthen cooperation in digital economy. Digitalization keeps us connected during the special time of the pandemic. Europe is famous for ICT and creative industries. Fujian is now endeavoring to build digital Silk Road. And the digital economy accounts for more than 40% of Fujian's GDP. NetDragon Websoft Incorporated has established close cooperation with the Serbian Ministry of Education to promote the development of smart education. Therefore, digital economy is a promising sector for our future cooperation. Second, expand trade and investment. The EU is the third largest trading partner of Fujian. In the first half of this year, the total trade volume between Fujian and European countries reached 104 billion RMB yuan, with the import increasing by 8.3% over the same period of last year. The commodities from both sides are complementary to each other. We shall tap into the potentials of both markets. I invite you to attend the annual CIFIT, which means China International Fair for Investment and Trade, held in Xiamen, city of Fujian province, every September, and the Digital China Summit held in Fuzhou every May. Fujian will continue to encourage more competitive enterprises to invest in Europe, as well as to keep improving business environment for enterprises from home and abroad. Third, enhance people-to-people and cultural exchanges. People-to-people bond holds the key to state-to-state relations. It is the foundation for cooperation, because only by mutual understanding can we build more trust and friendship. In future, Fujian will continue to work with our partners in the fields of education, culture, sports, and tourism. To conclude, I wish all of you good health and all the best in your work. We sincerely welcome you to visit Fujian province after the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yanming. And with this, the plenary session is finished, and we are now moving on to bilateral meetings, which will be held online. I would like to thank all the organizers of the forum, as well as all distinguished speakers for their energy and support to organize this forum, even in this situation. I wish the forum a great success and all the B2B participants fruitful meetings. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.